All right, what is up, everybody? We have got an awesome episode for you with the Next Guy Up podcast. We have got a little bit of a mix between the offseason and the NFL draft reaction show. This is probably going to be our last little bit of NFL content for at least a little bit. So all my hockey heads and all my basketball people out there, we will be talking about that come next week. But we're going to wrap up the cherry on top of the NFL draft. We've got a reaction show. Zach is out again tonight, so we have once again called up the next guy up, true to fashion, Josh. Josh is back with us tonight. It is not the last time. I'm sure we will have him on many more times over the summer, but Josh, glad to have you. I am outnumbered once again. Maybe I should get more of a more neutral, like someone who roots for someone random, like the Seahawks or something, on one of these shows. It's 2 Titans against 1 Jag here tonight, but we'll figure it out. So we're going to be kind of doing a reaction show, kind of talking about the main storylines from the first round of the draft and really the draft in general. Break down some of the team fits, players that we love, some winners and losers. And I know me and Mason both have a couple of long shot bets to go ahead and get in, because why not? Get it while the value's good as far as offensive and defensive rookies of the year. But without further ado, boys, I figure we could go ahead and start it out with the spicy topics of the Titans and Jaguars drafts. I feel like Titans. We'll go with you guys first. How you guys feeling?
Kick us off, Josh, because I want to hear what he has to say first. I have some mixed feelings, as always with the Titans and their organization. I try to just love them and devote my all to them, and they burn me somehow. So, but go ahead, Josh, kick us off.
It's going to be a big starting point for Rand here. His first big draft. He leads off with a couple picks in the trenches, and really wise decision there. It's kind of like a Harbaugh's approach as well. You get the big guys; they move the line of scrimmage either way. So I was really hoping Joe Alt would be there. He was not, and then I thought, well, maybe we'll go get a receiver or perhaps Bowers, because he can block and catch. But decided to shore up the line of scrimmage, which is a really smart decision, because you can't throw to anybody if you don't have any time to throw. So protect Levis, and I think that's a great way to start round one. Sure, I wanted to see something a little bit splashy, but the day before the draft, somebody asked me what I wanted to see, and I said, I want a real boring pick. Give me a good offensive lineman.
I think, in talking about the Chargers with Joe Alt, I really think if you would have just swapped Joe Alt and J.C. Latham where they were picked, because J.C. Latham's like a career right tackle, and Joe Alt is a career left tackle. I really think you could have, I feel like people were kind of down on the Chargers, being like, oh, that's not really a fit. Joe Alt is a left tackle, and they already have a left tackle. But J.C. Latham is more of a right tackle. He would have fit better with them. But, you guys have a really good offensive line coach, and maybe he can coach J.C. Latham up into a defensive tackle or a left tackle position. That is Thanos, by the way. I'll just go ahead and just throw it out there. Mason's dog. I guess he didn't know how to mute his mic or what he was doing. So Thanos was going wild right there.
Who let the dogs out?
I was trying to, I was trying to go through it. I was being a pro, but that's all good. That's moments like this are what the pod's made for. Zach will definitely text us about that and be like, "What are you boys doing? I'm gonna wait for 1 week." But
down.
I don't know. I don't hate the JC Latham pick for you guys. But I really thought you guys, and maybe it's just because I wanted y'all to trade down. You guys, I feel like you could have gotten them, but maybe not. I don't know. I mean, apparently from everything I've read, is that top 10, no one was trading. The Falcons, everyone was trying to trade up with the Falcons. The Chargers were, getting offers. Everyone was trying to trade up, and everyone was like, no, we're not. Everybody's stuck and picked who they wanted. So let's talking about your first round pick. How do we? Well, I guess we'll wait for Mason to come back. So we'll keep talking about this big boy here. Do you see where J.C. Latham's going to maybe try out left tackle this year, and if it doesn't work out, maybe you have a better option next year in the draft to take a left tackle and switch him back?
Yeah, I think the wise decision here for him is to absolutely move him around. He can play all 5 positions on the offensive line, and that's something that I think is even more valuable than anything, because he can swing left and right. He can go inside, outside, and that's huge. That's huge in this league. So, I think you give him a shot. You would prefer to have a more bona fide left tackle, but it is what it is. I like the potential of having a guy that can play anywhere on the line. It's like pitchers in baseball. You need
Yeah.
6 or 7 because there's just injuries. Injuries happen.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't think it's a terrible thing to where you kind of just roll out your best 5. I mean, it's kind of the same thing you did last year with taking Peter Skronsky, right? He played tackle in college, but he's probably going to be a guard for y'all for the long term. I think that's where he's going to settle in at. And I think you could kind of, like I was saying, you take J.C. Latham. You've got a great offensive line coach in Callahan, and he just says, hey, let's try him left tackle. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. At worst case, you have a right tackle for 10 years. You have a right guard. He'll take one of those 2 spots, and next year you could take another guy at left tackle or free agency or whatever you need to do. So I definitely don't hate the pick. I feel like Joe Alt was your guys' is like, hey, let's get him. But since he wasn't there, next best player available. I was glad to see you guys not take a receiver just because, like you said, you don't have more than 1 second to throw the ball, then there's no point in having all those receivers.
You blink all of a sudden, and that room's kind of getting a little clogged in there. So,
yeah,
I'm not exactly saying Burks is a dude, but hey, sorry, Tens, but Ridley coming in, Hopkins in there, all of a sudden, it's not like we're short of guys to throw to. We really need some time.
Bowers would have been
Mm-hmm.
Bowers would have been an interesting pick, and I'm not super high on Bowers, but that would have, I don't know, that would have been interesting to see how that fit into your offense with Chig. That could have been very interesting, but I guess we'll never know. But so we're going to move on to the second round pick, Mason. I think you maybe had some more opinions about him.
Yeah.
D tackle, kind of a position of strength for you guys.
Yeah. I just want to say back to the first, I would have rather traded back now knowing what we know about the amount of quarterbacks that went. People valued it quite a bit. I would have loved to trade back to get more assets and possibly still get an offensive lineman there. But yeah, defensive tackle, Vondre Sweat, second round, 30th pick out of Texas, had a DUI and came in kind of heavy over the offseason during the combine. So kind of scratching my head at that one, but maybe it's a good pick. We're all predicting at this point, but I just was a little unsure about that one.
Well, he went in his range. He was supposed to go in about that range.
I'm not saying we reached, but
no, yeah, he was projected to fall a little bit with the DUI because people were a little bit concerned. I mean, he did play a little bit overweight. There's rumors that he was playing at 380. I mean, if that was him at Texas playing at 380, hey man, he's moving because he's a good football player for sure. I mean, he's got good tape, but you do worry about he only played on average about 32 snaps a game. How much does that translate to the NFL? Like, how many snaps can he give you? How much are you really asking him to play? I mean, about 30 snaps a game doesn't sound terrible when you've already got a guy like Jeffrey Simmons at defensive tackle as well. And if you're really drafting him to be a run stopper, 30 snaps a game doesn't sound bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, taking him that high up, there is some risk. But I think anything after this first round, you're really you're taking risks on guys that fit in your system, and you see if they turn out to be what you need them to be.
Here's what I know. They don't make a ton of guys that are 360, 380 pounds. It's not like he's 6'11". He's like 6'5".
Yeah.
So he is a big man.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a bunch of receivers nowadays, but you cannot find a bunch of guys that are 360, 380, whatever he weighs in at.
Yeah.
You got to take that risk and put him on the hip of Jeffrey Simmons and hope that, hey man, if we have to take 3 or 4 guys here right up the middle, then all of a sudden they're having to bring in some tight ends to chip or double down on some outside, and they're really starting. What the Titans are doing, they're trying to build this team not just on a 1 year we're going to be good plan, but a multi-year plan. All right, so year 1, okay, we're gonna take a D tackle high, and then year 2 we're gonna take a defensive end, or we're gonna attack it in free agency. We're gonna get a hot defensive end, and then all of a sudden that defensive line is going to be tough to stop. That's why you didn't see him take a corner there in the second round, because that's really what I was angling for. But that's not the route they wanted to take. They wanted to go up front, shore up that defensive line, and work it that way.
Yeah, I mean, Rad comes from 49ers. If you think about his background of when he came in with John Lynch, they took over a team that had taken Eric Armstead very high in the draft. They followed that up by taking a DeForest Buckner and another player like Sheldon Thomas. I mean, that's defensive line. You start in the trenches, and you get those skill guys in those late rounds that fit your system, that make it look a lot better than it really is. Because a lot of those times, certain guys just fit well in certain systems. So it's a smart way to build a team. He seems like he's got a plan. We'll just see if he's got the right players and stuff to fit into that plan. After your first 2 picks, Titans fans, I don't really know where you went. I know you got the linebacker from North Carolina, and I guess Tajay Spears' roommate from Tulane, right? Is that where he played? Were those the needle-moving picks at all for you guys, or?
So we got Cedric Gray out of North Carolina in the 4th round. Then Jarvis Brownlee, cornerback from Louisville, the Tulane guy you were talking about in the 6th round, and then we had 2 7th rounders.
Okay, is the linebacker from North Carolina, is he like more of a traditional linebacker, or is he like a pass rushing guy? Did they really talk about it in the coverage?
I didn't see much about it. Here's the trend that I noticed. They took guys that were either very high up in production or athleticism. So, like if you get on to the NFL,
the RAS score,
they've got the production scores, athleticism scores, and all those different things.
RAS. Everybody loves those. Those are everybody's like, you draft somebody and people are like, oh, he's a reach. Everyone's favorite thing is like, oh yeah, well look at his RAS score. Which Brian Thomas, 10 out of like 2,000 wide receivers ever. Just saying. Just saying.
No, he's not going to be. He's not going to be a middle linebacker that kind of is the run blocker guy. He doesn't have that kind of physicality to fill
more
the gap.
More of the off-ball guy, can cover linebacker or cover tight ends a little bit.
Yeah, he misses too many tackles and he struggles a lot to kind of get to the ball quick and be agile.
Sounds like the perfect modern day off-ball linebacker, because that's what they all do now. They're all just thumpers in college, where they're just like big hit or nothing.
Yeah, I think they'll try to trim it down a little bit and use his speed.
All right. Well, any undrafted rookie free agents you guys are excited about? I don't know. There's a few the Jags got that I'm actually I think they're gonna make the team. I love those long shot story guys. It's like, oh, he should have been drafted in the 6th or 7th round, and everybody's like, oh, how'd you get him? And then none of them ever make teams.
Didn't you have like Jarvis Landry go to your rookie?
Yeah, he's gonna go to our rookie mini camp for a workout. I don't know why. We cut Zay Jones today, so
Saw
wouldn't be
that.
surprised if we signed Jarvis Landry,
Who
honestly.
are you excited about, Tim?
Yeah, all right. So, I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. taking a receiver in the first round is fun. Whether you think it's a good pick or not, it's just fun. You watch all the highlights. He makes all the big plays. Every analysis guy is like, "Oh, what a great pick," because it's a receiver. But I do like the fit. I think he comes into a room with Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram where he can learn. He's not going to be depended on as like the main guy out the gate, so he can kind of develop. But I do like getting a young guy. He's 6'3", ran a 4.3. I was joking about his RAS score, his athletic thing, but he was like a 9.9 out of 10. So I mean, it was freakish numbers. Had the one really big year in college. So that's a little worrisome where he didn't produce every year, but LSU's got so many wide receivers, he kind of had to wait his turn. Our second round pick is a true Trent Baalke boomer bust situation where we took a guy who was coming off of an ACL injury this year. His freshman year, Mason Smith from LSU. His freshman year, I guess he put up a lot of big numbers, was early projected as like a first round guy. Tore his ACL sophomore year, missed the whole year, came back this year, not at 100% till towards the end. But he's 6'5", 320, pass rusher, defensive tackle position guy. But true Trent Baalke pick where he took size and speed over film. So we'll kind of see with that. And then maybe my favorite, this might be my favorite pick of the whole draft. And I like Brian Thomas Jr. I'm very excited about him, but Jawan Jones, cornerback from Florida State. This guy was angry that he fell to the third round. He was projected towards the top of the second. ESPN was set up, filming. They had all the cameras there for when the call happened. He starts falling down the board, and he's very upset about it. Grew up a Jacksonville Jaguar fan. Showed us during his press conference like his Maurice Drew jersey. So he's a lifelong Jaguar fan. Went to Florida State, and someone showed like his press conference after the LSU game this year where he said, "Just so you guys all know," I guess everyone was saying Florida State wasn't going to be able to cover the LSU wide receivers, and he said, "Just so y'all know, I read everything you said about me on Twitter, and I know none of y'all going to say it to my face now. But go watch what just happened tonight." I guess he had a very good game. I don't know. I like corners who have a little bit of that dog in them. He seems to like he has a lot of it. Promised Doug Peterson that it was the best decision of the whole draft to come and get him. So that was fun. So I don't know. I just kind of a guy I like immediately gravitated to was Mr. Jones, number 7.
Got you hyped up over there.
Yeah, I liked him. And then we drafted a kicker. We drafted a kicker who did the gritty against LSU when he hit a game-winning field goal. So who doesn't love that? Youngest kicker to ever be drafted. He's 20 years old. He's like 5'9", 120 pounds soaking wet, but he has a leg on him. I saw some videos of him hitting some like 70-yard field goals. So it's always fun taking a kicker. That's very random. But we liked him enough. We cut our starting kicker today after we drafted him.
He's the guy now.
He's the guy now. And I will say this. I do think we had the best 2 drafts in the division. And we'll kind of get to some winners and losers and stuff. But Colts fans, I know you guys have been having fun with me on Twitter last few days. We've been having a little war. Your draft sucks. Texans, wow. You had no draft picks because you traded away everything for old man diva Stephon Diggs. Your draft sucks too. So just thought I'd let everybody know.
You wanted to shoot a shot over here. Was there anybody that you thought that didn't do that well in the draft, Josh, while we're talking about people that their draft sucked according to Tens?
Yeah, absolutely. I will, before we shift out of that. I'll say the Titans undrafted free agent. My favorite one is Jabari Small, moving west from Knoxville, running back for the Vols. Now going to get his shot to maybe make the team, and that would be really cool. I always love it when a Vol becomes a Titan.
I thought he went back to college.
I saw something today. I'll see if I can go back and find it.
Guess he left his eligibility open.
Let's see. Tennessee standout running back Jabari Small is signing as a PFA with the Tennessee Titans.
That's awesome. I was really hoping the Jags were going to take Jalen Wright because we hired UT's running back coach, and we were apparently we really liked Wright, but he went around early to the Dolphins, which, you know, go figure. All they like is speed. So I think that'll do it for our Jet. You know, we had to talk little Jags, little Titans here. It's the heart and soul of this podcast is those two teams. It's a very playful rivalry on the pod. In real life, I'm a lot meaner about the Titans than I am on these airwaves. But
you're outnumbered. That's why.
Yeah, I know. I don't have any backup here. So, but normally I have Macy helping me out. All right. So I think the biggest storyline coming out of this draft was the quarterbacks. I mean, we had 6 quarterbacks go in the top 12.
Yep.
I mean, what a crazy run on quarterbacks. You know, it feels like every year the over-under is set at like 5.5, and they're always like, oh, this is the year, you know, we're going to have this huge quarterback run. And then it's always like 4. You get 4 quarterbacks, and then, you know, guys go in the second round. The last time I can remember a quarterback run like this is Cam Newton's class with like Blaine Gabbert and Jake Locker, Christian Ponder.
Big stars.
Yeah, big stars. They all panned out to turn out really well. You know, I don't know if I'm hoping for that for this class or not. I don't really know. But so this was unprecedented with as many quarterbacks that went. So I figured we'd talk a little bit about where these guys landed. I don't think we'll spend a lot of time like on Caleb Williams. He's landing in a great spot for a first overall draft pick. Solid offensive line, top 10 defense. Already had 3 great weapons, really, when you talk about Cole Kmet, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore. And then the rich get richer because of everything else that happened in the top 10. Rome Odunze falls in their lap at 9.
Yep.
Unreal.
So, I mean, that's just the best landing spot ever. So I think we can talk a little bit about Jaden Daniels if you guys want. I think I have a take that I'm going to go ahead and plant my flag in. Watching a lot of Brian Thomas Jr. tape here the last few days, Jaden Daniels might suck.
Wow.
Jaden Daniels might not have an NFL arm. There's a lot of throws where him and Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, are coming like 10 yards back to the ball, making unreal plays to bail out Jaden Daniels. I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to be super great. So I think he's going to be the guy I label is my he's not going to make it.
Yeah, I was going to ask that later. So hold your thoughts for maybe who your favorite bust is for this thing.
Okay.
I think Daniels is a smaller, faster version of Anthony Richardson.
While we're already here,
right.
I was just gonna say, I felt they, in my opinion, had one of the best drafts to me was the Washington Commanders.
I love what they did. They got the really good tight end out of Kansas State. Johnny Newton in the second round was a great pick. There's a couple other picks in there that aren't coming off the top of my head.
I was almost worried that they were going to mess it up with Jaden Daniels not being there. You felt like he's not a good pick. I disagree. I think that he's the only thing I'm worried about is the fit, because Washington Commanders have not think about their quarterback situations in the past. I've always got excited about think about any of them there. Sam Howell, Heineke, any of them, they've not really panned out. And so I hope they're set up for success there. They had what you talked about, Jaden Daniels. then Johnny Newton in the second round. Then they got a corner out of Michigan. I saw some tape on him in the second round as well. And then they went back to, some people were saying might have been the second best tight end out of this draft, Ben Sinnott, Kansas State.
Ben
Am I
Sinnott,
saying
yeah.
Yeah. And then they had a couple. Went to offensive line, Brandon Coleman out of TCU, and then they went and got Luke McCaffrey out of Rice, wide receiver. He looks like a slot guy, and so he had 13 touchdowns last season. Pretty good, like slot guy in my opinion. So I felt pretty good about their draft. I like their draft.
I like their draft, and I think Daniels is walking into a pretty solid situation as far as like a top pick quarterback wise. Offensive line's a little shaky, and they didn't do a lot to address it, I don't think. But Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and then they've got Brian Robinson at running back and Eckler. So, I mean, they're not hurting for weapons over there. I don't know. Something about him. He played in college so long. I mean, he was throwing touchdown passes to Brandon Ayuk in college. Brandon Ayuk's been in the NFL for a minute now. So I don't know. That's where I don't know. I think he might. If we're labeling my biggest bust of these quarterbacks, I think he's going to be the one I slap that on. Might just plant my flag into that ground and stay
over
there.
JJ McCarthy, which you've hated on this podcast this whole time. Maybe it's the situation. You kind of have different teams set up there.
Yeah, and we can talk about them real quick. JJ McCarthy, you know, if the Bears is the number one situation a quarterback's been drafted to, JJ might be number two. Great offensive line, Justin Jefferson at wide receiver, TJ Hawkinson, Addison, but not even just that. But you're talking about a coach in the Vikings head coach, Kevin O'Connell. I mean, they won like 8 games, almost made the playoffs last year with a rotating door at quarterback with like Josh Dobbs and Jalen Hall, and I mean whoever else you can think of was out there playing quarterback. I mean, this guy is a true quarterback guru. He comes from the McVay tree. If JJ has all this talent that all these guys are talking about, where like, yeah, he didn't throw a lot in college, that's because he wasn't asked to. I think O'Connell will be able to get all that out of him. So I think he fell into the right situation. I think if he were to have gotten drafted like by the Giants, I think that would have been a disaster waiting to happen. So yeah, no, I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's an overdrafted player, but that's quarterback in the NFL. He fit the system I guess the Vikings needed, and I think he could end up being pretty good.
Should we continue through these quarterbacks and see which one was in the worst situation as we go through these? Best situation, obviously, Caleb Williams, and then you're kind of going down through the line. So what would be – go ahead.
I guess I like what the Patriots did. I like what the Patriots did as far as putting some weapons around Drake May. I like Drake May. I think he's got all the tools to be a good quarterback. I was hoping he was going to be the one to land in the Vikings situation because I think he really could have hit the ground running. He kind of is perfect for what they want to do. But that didn't end up happening. But I do like what the Patriots ended up doing. The 2 wide receivers they got in Polk from Oregon or from Washington, and then Baker. And this is just a little nugget. I know we're all in dynasty leagues together here, but I'll go ahead and put this seedling in your brains. Baker, wide receiver from UCF, he might be this year's Puka Nacua. Physical, 6'4", run after the catch, catches anything thrown in his area. I love this kid. He was a guy I was hoping the Jags would take later in the draft. Just double up on receiver, why not? that didn't end up happening. I love this kid. And then Polk is a solid, like, go-to slot, reliable receiver. And the Patriots have a good offensive line. They've invested in that over the years. That was definitely – it's not been a problem for them. And then Hunter Henry, I feel like, still a solid tight end. So, I mean, Drake May's got some weapons. I don't think he's going to start out like starting games to begin with. And that might be good for him to sit for a little while, develop behind Brissett, and not get thrown out there so early. So I think if we're ranking like situations, I think Drake May's solid in like the fourth best situation.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we all know what the worst situation is. The worst draft of the entire league. What the heck are the Atlanta Falcons doing?
Not what I've listened to a lot of draft recap podcasts. No one has like a solid explanation. Not even just Michael Penix. We're about to talk about Michael Penix here. But even their second round pick taking the Clemson defensive tackle over Johnny Newton sitting there at the top of the second round. I don't know. And then really like nothing the Falcons did for the whole draft made sense in any way. But Michael Penix, is he walking into a good situation? I don't know, because this team obviously just doesn't know how to draft. But to pay Kirk Cousins what you paid Kirk Cousins for, and essentially it is a 2-year contract. They can get out of it after 2 years, but even then, still, Michael Penix is going to turn 25 during this NFL season. So you're looking at 27, 28 years old before he's seeing significant playing time.
Brandon Weeden.
Exactly. And that's not even, like say they did this with JJ McCarthy. I think I could have defended. I could have swallowed that pill a little bit better, because JJ's 21 years old. Like, turns 21. He will be 21 for his whole rookie year of his contract. Michael Penix is turning 25 before the season is over.
Oh my goodness.
And you're talking about contracts, like rookie contracts for quarterbacks. You want to win and have the team built during that, because that's the cheapest he's ever going to be. You're never going to get that quarterback at any cheaper of a deal, because none of these guys are Tom Brady, who are married to a supermodel who's making 10 times more money than him. So he doesn't care about his contract. It just doesn't happen. So you're going to have to make a decision on 28-year-old Michael Penix on his contract before you've really had more than a season of him being your starting quarterback. Like, that's just malpractice. It's not even that I don't like Michael Penix. I think he's whatever. He's just now been thrown into a terrible situation.
I have a take.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it a bad situation for him because he can just sit and be backup quarterback and make money, and then if the only way he's seen anything is if there is an injury, hopefully there's not. But then when his contract runs out, he may have not even played a snap yet, but he's going to ask for more money. He can use leverage, because it's like, okay, I'll just go sign somewhere else, or you pay me more money than my rookie contract. Then he could make more money without even making an actual snap in the NFL, possibly. So it may not be the worst for him. Like, possibly he can develop, sit behind a quarterback. It's better than half of these. It's crazy how much impatient we have gotten, because when I was like in high school, do you remember Josh and Tens? Every single quarterback that got drafted, we all talked about them not playing for their first season. Now they're all thrown in. And think about the carousel. Every one of them is like thrown in immediately. And then if they're not, like, think about Tinsley's draft with Trevor Lawrence. He's the only one that's still with this team that's a starting quarterback out of all of those. And I feel like they've all been thrown in so quick. And if they're not, he has no pressure. I don't think it's a bad situation for him. I think it's a bad situation for the Falcons.
Yes.
But I don't think it is for him, because he literally has no pressure at all. And if Kirk Cousins does get hurt and he does get thrown in, then it's like, I wasn't expected to be thrown in this quick. Like, I was supposed to be literally this quarterback that sits for 2 years and learns. Think about Jordan Love. Think about Aaron Rodgers. Think about some of these that did sit behind a pretty decent quarterback. They've all actually panned out. It's just his age
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, it's the age. It's the age that makes it tough.
But I don't hate it. It was scratching. It was a head scratcher for the Falcons, but I don't hate it for him. That's my take.
Here's what I don't get. They take Pitts and London and Bijan in the first round the last 3 years, and then you go out and you fire your coach and you make all these moves. You go get Kirk Cousins, and so you think, okay, well the offense is set. Like they don't really need a tight end. I mean, I guess they could go Bowers and keep him in state. That would be kind of cool. Go Twin Towers at tight end kind of thing. Could use a receiver, sure. That would be sick and crazy.
Right. That all that makes more sense than.
But to take, Penix and an older quarterback. What would Penix? How would we be talking about him right now if he went to Minnesota?
Right. Or the Raiders. I mean, he was a popular pick for the Raiders. That's the only thing. Like we bring up Jordan Love, and we bring up even Aaron Rodgers when he was drafted by the Packers. The only difference is those teams were picking in the 20s. They weren't picking in the top 10. This is a team that was picking 8th overall. They were not a good team. It's not like you just signed Kirk Cousins and every one of your problems went away. A lot of them did, because you're not going to have to roll out Desmond Ridder this year. I understand that for sure. But that is that didn't make everything go away. You could have used a defensive player, or like you said, you could have drafted one of these receivers or Brock Bowers and given Kirk Cousins even more weapons to take you where you need to go, or trade down with the Jacksonville Jaguars, like apparently we were trying to do, and so I could get Roma Dunze, but that's whatever.
It is always a bad look when the offensive you can tell that the offense could use help, and instead of them like doing that, they spent on a quarterback, because that's what the Packers got themselves in trouble with Aaron Rodgers. Was like he had no wide receiver, and they went and drafted Jordan Love, and that was like the disgruntled. So it would be different if they were like a top to bottom, like let's say the Chiefs offense or any like one of these top tier teams that didn't have any holes, and then they did that. But the fact that I would have not thought twice if they would have drafted Joe Milton like in the 6th round. I know he's not a Michael Penix, but if they would have like went ahead and got a second quarterback as like a backup plan in the 6th round, and then use their 1st round on somebody, because all the other Spencer Rattler and all those other quarterbacks, they didn't go till the end of the 5th round.
Right.
So he could have literally waited that long. They could have waited that long to maybe get somebody if they wanted to as a development, and spent less capital than they did on Michael Penix. So I don't know.
I mean, the reasoning is, well, with Kirk Cousins, we're never going to be bad enough to be in this position to draft a quarterback this high.
Yes.
And I do get. Like I said, I would get that if you took 21-year-old JJ McCarthy. But also, teams aren't thinking that far in advance. I get not wanting to be in purgatory where you're just constantly like a 500 team and you're picking in the late teens. And yeah, you're not going to have a chance at a quarterback that way. But to invest so much future into a 24-year-old quarterback who's also had multiple season-ending injuries in his career, like that's just not smart team building at all.
Yeah.
And then I guess the only other who did we miss? Bo Nix, wet fart. What a flame out that guy's going to be in the league. I mean, he's got Mitch Trubisky energy all day long. He's going to be in the league 3 years before he's holding a clipboard. In my professional opinion,
Peyton swears he is like the most NFL ready.
I know.
People said that about McCarthy too, and I don't know. I just can't see it. Can't see it.
No, you can't make me believe in Bo Nix, because he is a screen merchant. I mean, if they did one thing good for him, they did get his number one receiver in Franklin from Oregon, so that's something. But the Broncos are just a mess. They got holes everywhere.
Laughing stock.
They're in a rebuild without any cap space because they invested everything they have and then some into Russell
draft
Wilson.
picks. They don't have draft picks, or that's like them and the Carolina Panthers are the two laughing stocks of the NFL right now, in my opinion. There, I said it. And Panthers.
You said it.
I said it. Didn't even have a first round pick. Panthers, because they traded to the Bears for the Bears to finesse and be like, you know what, we're gonna do this and have that combo right there. He's I didn't mean to go back to Caleb Williams, but that is my top best ready to go. And then I think Bo Nix, look at their offense. They have nothing, and they're in the toughest division. So it's like, what are we doing? True. Yeah, they're not a good situation.
Well, since we're talking about now that you're talking about the Broncos not really having any draft class here to talk about, were there any draft classes that stuck out to you guys, good or bad?
Bears. I mean, Bears had. I love what they've done. You can go back to preseason, or preseason episode, my first episode with you guys, and I talked about Fields and how much I like him, and I'm still a believer in him and as a player. And I think Poles was honestly a believer in him as a player. I don't think he wanted to get rid of him, but you talk about making sense with the draft capital that you have. Man, oh man, you're getting Caleb Williams, who many people believe he would have gone as the first quarterback last year and the year before that, and possibly the year before that. Like, he put him right up there with Trevor and those boys. So you got a chance to take one of the best quarterbacks come out in a while, according to many of the pros, and you can hit reset on that 5-year window. You take a receiver to pair with him, and you've got DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. And I mean, man, the defense is tough. They could easily win 10 games this year and nobody would bat an eye.
Yeah. I mean, Rome Odunze, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but the offensive tackle they got from Yale was a projected high, second round guy. He's going to plug in and probably start at guard for them. I mean, you're talking about a third round pick who's going to be a starter for you. And then you get the best player maybe off of the whole Iowa team in Torrey Taylor, the punter. Talk about a guy who was an absolute weapon for Iowa.
He was, man.
I mean, that was the strength of their team with special teams. So, good draft for the Bears, everything. And then if you really want to think about it, Montez Sweat was their second round pick. It's pretty solid. Keenan Allen was their fourth round pick. That's pretty solid. The Bears definitely had a good class when all things are, when you think about it that way. Mason, was there anybody that stuck out to you?
I went with the Washington Commanders, but I'm also going to say the Cardinals did not mess it up. They went with the best available player, which was Marvin Harrison. And then their second round pick, they went with Missouri defensive tackle. And then they also went.
I nailed that pick in my mock. I specifically said Robinson was from Missouri, was going to go to Arizona because he is Brandon Graham. He is Brandon Graham 2.0. He is a carbon copy of the Eagles' defensive end / defensive tackle guy.
Yeah. And then another one that stuck out to me of their picks was Trey Benson, which some people see as a sleeper pick with their running back out of Florida State. And they got at the 66th pick. Huh?
He is a dynasty. He is. Yeah. He's going to be. He will be their starting running back by the end of the year. I like Connor. He's getting older. He's hitting. This is his 29-year-old running back year. I think apparently that is when they all fall off. So good time to invest in a good running back. But yeah, I like that Cardinals draft class as well.
One more that I wanted to throw out. I really like the Nate Wiggins pick out of Clemson to go into the Ravens. That seemed like such an automatic, made sense for them type of pick. I thought they did pretty decent on there as well. I don't know if you got Devontae Walker. He was in the news a lot because of his eligibility with North Carolina, and he got drafted by them. He had
deep threat.
Yeah, so didn't hate their picks either.
All right. Yeah, no, I definitely like both of those classes as well. I've just got two more that we hadn't talked about yet. The Rams. I love the Rams getting Fisk and Jared Verse. I think Jared Verse at plus 1,100 for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I've already taken this bet. I think he's going to be a problem on this defensive line. When you look at it, you've got last year's player Brian Edwards from UT as a starter who had an awesome year for the Rams last year. And then Kobe Turner, who was in the running for Defensive Rookie of the Year at defensive tackle. You add two more defensive linemen, and it's a very strong 4 as far as defensive lines go. And I think Jared Verse is going to be like the big number one guy out of that.
Guess who also called that on their mock draft? This guy.
Yeah, I think you had Nate Wiggins too, the Ravens, didn't you?
I'll have to go back and look. I know for a fact that let's see. No, I had Cooper DeJean, which he fell to the second round. I was shocked.
Same.
But Jared Verse, because I called it that they were going to try to replace somebody for the Aaron Donald pick. So that was mine.
I mean, you got Jared Verse and the UT defensive end on the outsides, and you've got Brandon Fisk and Kobe Turner at defensive tackles. It's a solid defensive line for sure.
Yeah.
And then outside of the Jags, this is my favorite draft class. Pittsburgh Steelers, which they just have a way. Them and the Ravens seem like they're just organizations that just nail the draft. They never spend a lot in free agency because they have their own guys that it's just like a farm system. These are two great organizations for a reason. But I love what the Steelers did. You go and get the left tackle out of Washington. He's a little undersized. They think he's going to play tackle, but if not, they've got some guys that can play left tackle. He can kick in and play left guard, be a starter there for the next 10 years. And then you go and get Will Frazier. Will Frazier might be the toughest man in the NFL now. 4-time All-State high school wrestling champion. Wrestled at West Virginia as well. So his last game at West Virginia, this was his senior year, he breaks his leg on the final drive. He drags himself off the field so they don't have to burn a timeout, so they can call that last timeout, run one more play, and get the final little bit of field goal range to win their game. Just a tough dude. Just a perfect – I mean, he went to West Virginia. He's 6'3", 320 pounds. He's going to be their starting center for the next, 20 years. Like, he's one of those dudes. And then Roman Wilson, wide receiver out of Michigan. If you see the Steelers take a wide receiver in anything past the second round, go ahead and lock it up that guy's going to be a monster, a problem. Draft him early and look smart. I'm telling you now, because that's what they do. This franchise has just consistently churned out wide receivers. Roman Wilson was a little underused at Michigan, to say the least. I think he's going to offer a pretty good deep threat to what they already have with Pickens. And then Peyton Wilson, linebacker from NC State. He's probably only got about 5 years worth of playing because he has one ACL. But guy made plays all over the field. If you watch any NC State games, he's running down running backs on screen plays. He's taking pick sixes back to the house. He's just an animal out there. And then just to top off, just to make sure their offensive line's good, and I don't know how this guy fell to them because he was projected second-round player. He's the 8th ranked offensive guard in the draft, but they fell to the 4th round. Mason McCormick, offensive guard from South Dakota State. I mean, they literally probably just drafted 3 guys that are going to start on their offensive line next year in one draft. And that's the Steelers for you. And they'll probably be a top 10 unit. And so, I mean, give the Steelers to me an A++. And if they start Justin Fields like they should, because I'm with Josh, I like Justin Fields. I love that he went to the Steelers. I love that Ryan Poles did a solid by him by saying, hey, I could have sent you somewhere else that probably would have given me a little bit more, but this is the team that probably lets you have a better chance of playing and actually like doing well because they're set up well. I'm going to send you the Steelers. So that was a good move on his part. I have been trying to buy all the Justin Fields stock that I can in dynasty leagues.
Speaking of dynasty leagues, though, I feel like Josh, you're in about 55 of those.
I've lost count
45.
Recently. Yeah. We have another one. So, I don't know.
We have a draft expert, dynasty expert here. I want to make sure that we give plenty of time because you got some notes here. You got some nuggets. You got some important information. Some things that you have some players you got your eye on. So.
Yeah, I got some guys I got my eye on. I'm in a draft with some of y'all tomorrow, so I start tomorrow. I can't give you guys, all the insights, but I'll try to give you some redraft perspective and some dynasty perspective. But Caleb Williams is a no-brainer just based on the situation that he's in. His ability, he can run. Probably not as well as Fields, but he's going to be able to come in and throw right away. They've got the weapons. He's surrounded by talent. It's going to make him look even better than what he is, which is pretty darn good. So he's a no-brainer. Gotta take him now. Long term, I'm not sure how I feel about him. That's my hot take.
Wow.
Attitude could be a problem at some point. As long as you're winning, it's fine. But
when you start losing all your antics, all of a sudden become locker room distractions.
Yeah, you become Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, and at some point, the problem outweighs the talent and ability. But he's not there yet. Let's ride the buzz. Let's ride the wave. But that's kind of my thoughts on him. I think Jaden Daniels is a really good fantasy quarterback. He kind of reminds me of Blake Bortles. Not in ability, but in that Blake Bortles was always a top 5 fantasy quarterback.
Heck yeah, he was, baby. He's slinging that rock.
Time. Oh, garbage time. He's cashing. He is cashing yards, man.
Oh, we're down 30. Where's A-Rob at? Let's get it.
He's down there somewhere. Just send it. And he can run. He can run really, really well. Right up there with Lamar type ability. Not as slippery, not as agile. But he's going to be really good. I could easily see Jaden Daniels getting about 800 yards, and that's going to be good for about 80 points in your fantasy leagues. Running backs, you've got Benson, like Mason was saying. Some people regard him as one of the best. Jonathan Brooks is a really solid running back. Many people believed he was going to be a Dallas Cowboy going into this draft. And
they talked about him too much, and so the Panthers traded up.
Yeah, and so I
like him for a dynasty. I don't like his situation just because it is a little log jammed, but I feel like, and he's coming off the ACL, but I do like him as far as like a dynasty guy that you can stash and wait for his situation to clear up, and then hopefully Bryce Young works out and he can be a good running back for him.
Absolutely. And then you've got Marshawn Lloyd, who would somewhat remind you of Marshawn Lynch, who's an absolute bowling ball. He's going to be a problem. All the running backs are.
He probably takes AJ Dillon's job, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
I think he's everything AJ Dillon was supposed to be. Yeah. A little bit better nose for the end zone and kind of fights through contact better. So I like that fit up there in Green Bay with Josh Jacobs.
100%. A lot of your running backs are going to be slow burns. They're definitely going to be dynasty targets, not as much redrafts in the fall. But there's always a running back. There's always a quarterback. There's always a receiver that comes out in their rookie year and does a lot of damage. And I think the favorites are Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey Benson. Those are the guys
Yeah,
I
those are the
would
three.
I'll put my stock in on that. So
I'm the guy in Dynasty where if you're trying to just throw in some I don't want to draft in the 5th round, I'm your guy who will take those 5th round picks off your hands because I love taking these long shot guys and sticking them at the end of my roster and seeing where they end up. I nailed one last year with Puka Nacua.
I was going to say, you feel pretty good if you get him in the last or second to last round.
So there's 3 I just want to throw out real quick. Running back for the 49ers, and this might be a long stash. I'm not going to try to say his name because it's really hard, but he was the running back at at Louisville. He is a perfect Mike Shanahan offense running back. One cut and go, speed. Maybe an eventual replacement for Christian McCaffrey in 3 years. I don't know, but you know what? I have enough bench spots to sit and maybe wait. I talked about it earlier with the wide receiver the Patriots took. His last name's Baker from UCF. He's going to be sitting there in the 5th round of your Dynasty League when all the guys are done. They don't care. They want you to hurt. Let's get this over with. Not Tinsley. I love those rounds. Those are my rounds. Give me all the garbage. And then this is my homer pick. UTSA wide receiver, Cephas. Number 2. His name is Cephas. Last name is Cephas, like Josh Cephas. Undrafted guy. He's going to make the roster. He's Zay Jones' replacement. Him and Brian Thomas will be the Jags' number 1 and number 2 wide receiver in 4 years.
Whoa.
I love this kid.
I'm writing this down.
I took a bet against UTSA one time, and this kid scored a 75-yard touchdown to beat my bet. So I had a hatred for him for a long time until we signed him as an undrafted free agent, and I said, "Oh, now he's my guy."
Now
he's playing for you now.
So those are 3. If you've got some extra taxi squad spots or some bench spots where you're just like, I don't know what to do with this 5th round pick in this Dynasty League, and I don't care. Throw it on one of those guys, and maybe you'll seem smart one day like me with Puka Nacua. I did nail that one time, Puka Nacua, in one league. It's the only league I could get him in.
Doesn't matter. That's why you play with volume.
That's right.
That's why I play with volume, Mason. Makes me look better. I say I won 3 Dynasty leagues last year. You're gonna be like, "Oh wow!"
And no one's asking how many you did. You're right.
Yeah, nobody needs to know that was only like 6% of my leagues. So
I had 2 real quick. They both were kind of accidental, involved with each other because they both made trades, and everybody's like freaking out. How could you let the Bills trade with the Chiefs to get Xavier Worthy?
Good question.
He made some news with a 40-yard dash. We talked about him pre-draft, and then him fitting in that situation perfectly, could get some volume, but also the Bills wide receiver, Keon Coleman, right? Is that the funny one during the press interview?
He's a funny guy. He's got a lot of funny press conferences like that. Even back in his time at Michigan State, he's got some funny one-liners.
He could have some volume there with Stephon Diggs not being there anymore. So those were my 2 that. Yeah,
both those players are the number 1 wide receivers on pass-heavy teams. Xavier Worthy walks in. Maybe not because Travis Kelce is still on the team, but he is the deep threat. He's going to be a boomer bust kind of guy with Patrick Mahomes, and then Coleman. He's the number 1 wide receiver on the depth chart, as far as I know.
Now, Xavier Worthy, let's tread lightly because I was a huge Sky Moore fan. Like, oh man, this is a perfect situation for him. He's got nobody there to compete. And then I'm not calling him Sky Moore, but I'm just saying maybe the Chiefs they ease him in. And then if he don't actually pan out, they find some random guy like Rashid Rice, which wasn't even on my it wasn't even on my radar. He wasn't random, but you know what I'm saying.
I feel like if the Chiefs traded up in the 1st round for you, They're about to use that guy.
Yeah,
He's
I would think
different.
so with the shiftiness. I'm just saying I got burned with Sky Moore and thought he was the guy. He was not a first round, broke the 40-yard dash record or anything, but I'm just saying maybe we'll see what happens.
Worthy is the closest they've found to Tyreek Hill out of all of their shots that they've taken
been looking
to
this
find
whole
his
time.
replacement.
Yep. They've been looking for that next one, and I think they found him. It fell in their lap, basically.
And for the Bills to be the team that traded down with you after you traded down with the Chiefs back in the day for them to get Patrick Mahomes, like, what are you doing? Stop doing this.
Tinsley really wants them to get burned by Xavier Worthy with an 80-yard touchdown in the playoffs next year. I could see it happening.
With the Bills?
No, the Chiefs beating the Bills in the playoffs.
Yes.
Xavier Worthy catching an 80-yard winner and being they traded to get that guy.
Yeah, if that happens, they need to watch out on Twitter because I'm coming.
Yeah. All right. Did you guys have any other last thoughts or anything? I know we had some long shot bets. We might save those for the next episode.
I already threw out mine.
Stuff. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I threw out verse.
Yeah, I got some betting stuff, but we'll keep the fans like wanting more, so they'll have to tune in for next episode. Yeah, for sure. I got some rookie of the year bets and some other things, but Josh, we appreciate you coming on. Did you have any other final notes per se?
Yeah, I got a final note. The Nashville Predators are ripping my heart out right now.
Yeah, some hockey for you. That was bonus. Yeah, tough break.
That was tough.
3-1, 2.5 minutes left, and
2 empty nets.
Blow the stinking lead, bro. And they give up a goal in the first couple minutes of overtime. Like, let's just, what are we doing? Listen, we're supposed to make the playoffs. We're not that good. I get all that. Okay, I know that.
But now that you're here,
hottest team to end the season. You know, you think, hey, little home cooking, like, let's get some magic happening. Hockey's different. You know, it's just different.
It is.
It's kind of like baseball. You gotta be hot. Yeah. And I said, you never know. Rip my heart out.
Imagine being there at the game, probably spending several hundreds of dollars, and that happens to you. How brutal of a game to watch. I was thinking about all those fans leaving, and I was like, man, what a tough break for them. But that's Dallas. Shout out Zach. That's Dallas. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Josh, for being on with us. Next Guy Up material for sure. We appreciate everybody. Make sure you check out Next Guy Up or our Monday Messing Around Monday episode. But we'll catch you all next time.